Okay guys, how are you? What's up? It's me, Hebot, coming back at you with another video. And this is something completely different that I'm doing. This is something that mostly people that have known me personally will understand and relate and know where I'm coming from, because they've known me on a more personal level and know more things about me than a lot of yous out here in the YouTube scene and the video game community. But I want to talk about a person that I want to try to pay tribute to and celebrate, and that is the Kentaro Miura. Has passed away. He is a man, a visionary, a wonderful, talented human being that unexpectedly we lost him too early, right? And the reason why, it's something I want to touch on is because I am a big fan of his body of work. And there's three real big elements here that are the obvious that this is horrible and sucks. One, obviously, him being a human being passing away. It's never something nice or something good or a good, hard, easy pill to swallow to celebrate somebody's death, because it's sad, right? You're going to miss these people, right? That's number one. Number two, because we've lost a genius in his field of work, a genuine master of his craft, a person that, like these specific people in our lives, like a Einstein or a Beethoven, or George Lucas, for example, right? That we might not even have the privilege or the pleasure to ever see again or experience and see someone like them ever again, or at least not for a long time, because these type of people, thank you, honey, these type of people come few and far between in generations in life, right? And thirdly, obviously, because he created one of the greatest, if not the greatest, anime and manga series that became an anime of all time. He set the standard for what is being practiced and mimicked and copied to this day. He took it to a completely different level and turned it into a form of art and craft where it's renowned, it could be celebrated, it could be awarded, because it's art. It's absolute talent. Absolute talent. He took a fantasy world with all the crazy nuances and real life situations and topics that are very racial, controversial, taboo, and then unified it in this experience of his with his body of work. And I am a very big Berserk fan, and I want to share that with you guys so you guys can see how it started. And it all started back like when I was about 16, 17. It was during the time where I was just met my daughter's mom and had transitioned and met my wife that is now. Big shout outs to my brothers Rich Perez and Steve Perez, because they got me more involved with different types of animes where I was able to discover so many more and understand the volume and depth and levels of depth that they bring in and add to the medium of entertainment, right? Which a lot of people till today don't even understand it or look at it as like a cartoon in a lot of ways. And it's just now starting to really catch its place and getting the respect and understanding, and people realizing how important, how big it really is, right? little bit of a chocolate wine. So it started back when I was playing, when I was video gaming, and that's why it kind of correlates. I believe I was on the Sega Saturn. The Dreamcast was about to come out soon, and I saw a game in the magazine where they were talking about it was going to be called Guts Rage Sword of the Berserk. And so I started talking with people in the stores, like I always do still to this day, about gaming, good games coming out. And he was telling me, hey, that's based off an anime that is extremely, extremely amazing and really good. That came out in the 80s, right? I don't know how far exactly. I think it was somewhere in 85, 84. I'm not sure, maybe 88, something like that. I don't really remember, but I gotta look it up. Forgive me for that. And he told me, oh, you gotta see it, it's amazing. I said, well, where can I acquire it? How can I see it? He said, well, look, I'm gonna lend you my copy, and I'll let you check it out. So he lent me the copy of his anime, and basically it was burnt on a CD, but it was from, I think, from a VHS, if I'm not mistaken. Burnt onto a CD. I sat down. My wife at the time was my girlfriend, but we were, a lot closer, obviously getting more serious. So she was staying with me. And we sat down one evening on a weekend, I think it was Saturday or Friday night. And I put on the first episode, and I told her, hey, look, want to sit down, watch this with me? It's really good. It's like a movie, but in a cartoon form with animations that are really sophisticated, high quality. And it was recommended to me by a friend and a colleague of video games and stuff. And let's check it out, right? As my wife, my wife said, yeah, okay, let's sit down. And mind you, my wife is not into video games like that. She's not into movies like that. She's not into anime like that. And we sat down. It was 26 episodes. And we watched every single episode that were all about 28 minutes long from beginning to end. All in one night. Because once we started watching it, we couldn't put it down. We couldn't stop watching it. It was just so intriguing and that good. And Guts, to give you an idea, it's a story of a kid that his mother was killed and hanged on the spiral tree in this medieval time, right? By some evil people, an evil army, and the tree was called the spiral tree, which is a tree that was cursed and condemned by evil and demons, right? And another woman found him that was married to a man named Gambino that was also a military man in an army. And he came out of her womb because she was hanging upside down, and came out of her womb and was still alive. And so Gambino's wife took him in and raised him with Gambino, but dedicated most of her life to taking care of him and raising him. And got sick and ended up dying. And so Gambino, when that happened, Guts was still a very young boy, and Gambino held resentment towards him because the wife dedicated all her last days to him and not him as her husband, and ended up dying in the process. So Gambino kept having resentment and treat him really tough and really hard and harsh with tough love. But during that process, he taught him how to fight with swords and be a marksman and a swordsman of a higher caliber. And every time he trained him with big, huge swords. The kid was like 10, 11 years old, but he kept training him with swords of men that were in their 20s and 30s that were super heavy and made him really strong. So it made him extremely strong and agile and capable of wielding huge swords, even though he was a smaller person, right? Smaller kid. And one night, or one evening, Gambino gets drunk or is really angry and tries to kill him when he's still a little kid. So him being in shock and scared, he tries to fight back. And when he tries to fight back, he basically ends up killing him accidentally, which is his stepfather. And then his army goes after Guts because they think he killed him in betraying him because he hated his father or his stepfather. And so they go after him. So he's the entire time on the run. So he has to raise himself by doing deeds like killing and fighting in arenas to make money, to eat. But because he became such a good swordsman, he was basically beating a bunch of people, even though they thought he was just a kid, 16 and 17 years of age, and couldn't really, and it took him as a joke, like, oh, he's not going to do anything. And he ended up killing the best of the best. And one of the biggest persons that he killed earlier on in his career was a guy called, a soldier that was huge named Bazuzo, or something like that, right? It was witnessed by a gentleman named Griffith that was a member of the Band of the Hawks, right? Which was an army that was fighting for the betterment and the good of other people that were less fortunate and for the country, right? And so once he beat him, I guess he made him a proposition, as far as I remember, and he turned it down. So they went after him and they chased him. And so they tried to size him up and see how good he was. But then out of all the people he fought that were part of the Band of the Hawks, one being exclusively this young lady named Casca, where she plays a humongous role in the story and in his life later on, only one of them was able to outdo him and beat him in a way that was almost humiliating, which was Griffith. And because he did this, Griffith said he belonged to him, and Guts felt like he owed him something, right? And the story expands even further and further and goes for years and years and years. And it touches on so many different things that are very racy, tough, taboo, but real in our reality that people just like to ignore and close a blind eye and act like they don't really exist. It's very open-minded material, very non-sided. It's open to interpretation for any side. It respects all ethnicities, sexual preferences, all types of stuff, but it does it in a very classy style through a fantasy world and story. It's amazing. It was so good that I went and I bought the animation, right, in the bootleg form, which cost me like, I think at the time it was like $80, but it was a bootleg one, and I bought it, and I was like, oh well, I want it, but I got my hands on it, and was happy to have it, right? Then a few years later, with my friend Mario, God bless him and shout outs to him, was my best friend growing up, one of my best friends, if not my best friend. We were always collecting animes, because we got really heavy into collecting animes, right? They announced that they were going to make the series in volumes 1 through 6, finally Americanizing it with dubbing of American and English and all that stuff, and make it available and accessible to the American audience, not through Japanese audiences only or the Japanese market. And it was going to be available at Best Buys. And sure enough, I bought all the volumes when they came out, and till this day I still own them. And these are the volumes. That's volume 1 there. It's 6 volumes altogether. 6 volumes altogether. Volume 2. Volume 3. That's Griffith right there, by the way. That's volume 4. Volume 5, that's Casca, by the way. And volume 6. And these stories are in manga form. And to this point, there's 40 volumes. And he still never finished the entire story. And so, that's how I started. So when I found out the game was coming out for Dreamcast, as you would know, being so attached to it, the next thing I did, the next logical step was I immediately went out and I bought the game for Dreamcast, which is right there, Sword of the Berserk. Still in pretty good shape. It's very old. Still own it to this day, right? I had to get it, and I enjoyed the game. It was very good, very appreciated, but very good nonetheless. Then years later, they made a PS2 sequel. Only came out overseas, which I imported, paid like almost $100 for it, and was very disappointed with it. Had it for a while, needed some money, sold it to one of my local shops, which is actually Digital Press, and he gave me a nice amount of money for it back, because at the time it tripled in value. It was worth about $200-300 for PS2, and he gave me about $150. So I took it and ran with it, which I kind of regret because I wish I still had my hands on it. Then, during that time, before the actually getting my hands on the sequel, I went out to my comic book shop and picked up mainly only Guts, because of the fact that I couldn't afford to get all the figures because they were imported. So they had them like in his general form. They had Griffin, they had a bunch of them, but they were like $45 each at the time. And this here is my Guts figure from that point. It's a 9-inch figure. It is articulated. As you can see, he has the huge dragon sword. Like I said, he learned to wield and fight with big swords. There he is right there with his little, throwing knives, which at this moment is missing one, which should be in the box. I picked that up before I picked up the game. I've had it in my possession all these years. I couldn't get the other ones. My boy Mike at the time, shout outs to him, wherever he may be, which he became a mailman. He had it, but he had all of them. And I used to be like, damn, Mike, I wish I had all of them. I'm kind of jealous. So, but not in a bad way, not in a malicious way, not jealous like that, in a malicious way, but, just jealous in a friendship type of way, like, wow, it's nice to know that you have, it's nice to see that you have that, and I don't, right? So, in that type of way. So, later on, a few years later, they announced that they were going to make, another interpretation of the original volumes 1 through 6 with more sophisticated and modern day anime style, right? In a form of a movie. And they were going to break it up in 3 parts. Mind you, a lot of the exposition and detail was lost. It was already lost, a lot of it from the manga, but in this form, it was lost even more because it was turned into a 3-arc movie part. So those movies were released, and of course, because I am a big fan, I end up picking them up, and these were the ones here, which was Arc 1, the Egg of the King, right? Arc 2, which was the Battle for Doltree, which is right here, right? And then Arc number 3, which is the Advent, which is right here. And these are the original ones. I still, they're all here, complete for all those that may think that I don't have, that they're not in there. Oh, you didn't open them up. As a matter of fact, I got a receipt for one of them. I just saw, let me tell you, it was dated back in 2013, the year that Xbox 1 came out, right? So I got those. Then obviously through the years, other stuff were announced and came out. For example, another game just recently for PlayStation 4, which I really thought they were going to come out for other consoles. Still hasn't to this day. And they came out with, obviously, Berserk. And here's the game. This one's called The Band of the Hawks, right? Which follows the arc of the first 6 volumes. And in manga form, I think it's the first 26 volumes. And the first 6 volumes of the DVD. Before that, they finally announced that they were going to reintroduce the series, making the continuation of those arcs after the eclipse, and which they called the Advent, right? In one of the volumes. In anime form, but using modern day tech with animation mixed with 3D. Which I also got my hands on and picked it up. And this was episodes 1 through 7, I think it was. Season 1. And here it is. This is actually the continuation of the first 6 volumes that we got all those years ago. And I have volume 2 as well, but it had gotten ruined. So I reordered it again. As a matter of fact, I'm supposed to get it soon because I didn't realize it got damaged. But I have season 2 as well on the way. I never bought the smaller mangas, even though I read some of them, because they were just too much money. And they were small. I really don't like the whole outlet and style of it, even though the artwork is incredible. But I didn't pick them up because they were kind of pricey too. They were $15, and at one point in the beginning, they were actually like $20 a pop, and $25 in some places. They were hard to get. Now they're a lot easier. You can get them probably for $12. What my son did purchase recently is the hardcover book. Excuse me, that's with the leather hardcover in the front and the brailing of the curse marking that he has in the neck after the eclipse. And it's really big. It's $50. I got it for $37.99 on sale. And it's volumes 1 through 3. They have 8 of them so far. Each one has 3 volumes. So they got to make more, obviously. And so that was, something that my son just ordered not too long ago. Now, one of the latest things I had gotten, and obviously, I only got it because, I really wanted to add it onto the collection, but I'm not really a big fan of the company because they make a lot of products expensive and really small in scale, right? But I wanted it either way to add it on. At some point I knew I was going to take the dive, so I did it anyway. And so I picked up the Figma version of Guts. The Figma version of Guts, as you see there. He's on the little stand. But they're pricey. They're like, $120, $110, $80, $90. And these things are like maybe 5 inches tall. They come with a nice amount of accessories, but they're hit and miss. Because, either the face don't look that great or the capes don't look that great. Things of that nature. So, those are kind of like all the things and memorabilia and things that I have in my possession, right? Of this amazing man named Kentaro Miura. Because even though he doesn't know me and I never met him, he touched my life in a very profound way, in a very deep way with his body of work. I've been saying it for many years that his manga and animes of his mangas are masterpieces, that they're the greatest in that genre and in that space of anime and manga. And everybody else should follow suit based on his body of work and be influenced by what he did and created. It's not an offense. It's not copying. It's actually a nod of respect and appreciation towards him. So it touched me deeply. It made me look at a lot of things very differently, understanding of a lot of things very differently that I already had an idea of, but looked at it from another point of perspective and point of view of another man's eyes and mind. And I want to celebrate him. I want to thank him wherever he may be. May he rest in peace, for giving us the gift of Berserk and what he created. And I want to thank his family for sharing his life with us, his passing, even though it was about a week later, because they still didn't have to. They could have kept it a secret. Again, you know, I feel almost irresponsible, and like, if, you know, I don't have a right to make a video like this of him, because again, I never really invested in all his manga stories deeply, but because of what I told you, because of the price value, because it was costly, and there's a lot of volumes. There's 40 of them. But I try to keep up with all the stuff based on what I knew and the areas and the mediums that I knew, and I know them well, and I appreciate them, and they mean the world to me. And I'm glad that I was able to have it in my life. I feel blessed that it was part of my life, and still is to this day, and will continue until the day I die. I will always remember this man's work and this man's vision. Sword of the Berserk is absolutely incredible. It's amazing. It's shocking. It's mind-boggling. It's definitely a subject for conversation in every sense of the way, but in a good way, in a very intellectual and sophisticated way, even though it's very brutal, violent, unforgiving, and straightforward. It's incredible. And I can't thank enough Mr. Kentaro for what you gave us, and all the fans in the world that follow you and love you and appreciate your body of work. I can't thank you enough for what you did. I know you're not here. I know you don't know me. I know you can't hear me, but maybe in your spirit form and afterlife, you maybe can hear me. I appreciate you, man. I love you and what you did, and I'm blessed that you gave us that gift of Berserk. Guts will always be forever a legacy like no other, that cannot be erased, that can't be replaced, can't be touched, and will never be forgotten. It's part of history. It's your legacy, and we're blessed to have it. Guys, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.